Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents How to Save the World for Free by Natalie Fee. Narrated by Shiromi Arserio. Introduction. You're here, somehow, because of an inkling that you need to play your part in saving the world, or through a series of serendipitous happenings that led you to choose this book, or simply because you saw it lying there or had it flash up on your screen and were curious enough to pick it up or click on it. You've arrived at this moment with me. And I'd say it's quite a significant moment, this. Not just because we're meeting, probably for the first time, but because we're about to form an alliance. You, me, and potentially everyone listening to this book who decides that saving the world, in whatever small or great way we choose, is quite possibly the most fantastic thing we could do with our time here on Earth. And not just because we might be doomed if we don't, but because we can, and because it's going to be fun. To say that we can face the realities of climate breakdown, rising sea levels, loss of biodiversity, and ongoing pollution without descending into a spiral of despair may seem counterintuitive. And sometimes we need to visit those feelings of disbelief, anger, or despair in order to find the motivation to act. But despair in itself won't save the world. Beauty, on the other hand, might. Imagining a more beautiful world, creating community, and being part of a groundswell of positive action is a much better option. And that's the kind of alliance I'm talking about. So this is how we're going to save the world. Oh, and we're going to do it for free, too, so that everyone can join us. Yes, a few suggestions in this book may come with an initial cost, such as investing in a good quality safety razor instead of disposable ones, or switching to a menstrual cup instead of tampons or pads. But they will all save you money over time. This journey, and it is a journey, because saving the world is a series of small steps along a winding path, as opposed to an overnight fix, is about you and your relationship to the world. I, for one, won't be judging how well you're doing, how fast you're going, or how many followers are hanging off your every Instagram post. I will, however, be actively championing anyone who makes a change in their life and discovers that the alternative to what they were doing before is bringing them more joy. Whether it's finding that by cutting out processed meat, you notice your health improving, or that by switching from the gym to a community running scheme, you make a whole new bunch of friends. This saving the world business won't mean much to you unless it feels better than the way you used to do it. When saving the world makes you feel good, it's worth sharing. Let's face it, we've got a whole heap of serious environmental issues on our hands, and the Earth is starting to show signs of pressure. With a growing population and increasing demands on the Earth's finite resources, combined with erratic weather, water shortages, ocean pollution, and melting polar ice caps, us humans need to make some big changes pretty fast if we want to thrive together over the coming decades. The alternative isn't pretty. On the most basic level, saving the world is about protecting the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, and the crazy cool collection of wildlife living on planet Earth, including us. And on top of all that, this world gives birth to rainbows. I, for one, don't want to live in a world without rainbows. Or butterflies, for that matter. I can't ignore the blood on my hands either. Children around the world, born with birth defects as a result of the chemicals used to make the clothes we wear. Seabirds starving to death with stomachs swollen with plastic used to wrap our food and drink. Whales tortured and dying from being blasted with high-intensity sonar used by both the military and oil and gas corporations searching for fossil fuels to power our cars and homes. It's not okay. Everything is not fine as it is. We're saving the world because we feel inspired, or compelled to, or because we've reached a point when enough is enough. Forget about the people who aren't feeling any of these things for now. By focusing on you, by learning to channel your talents into earth-positive ways of doing what you do, as an artist or an asset manager or an asset manager who makes art in their spare time. You'll experience a deepening sense of meaning, purpose, and well-being. And those qualities, by their very nature, ripple out and make waves. If our motivation for saving the world stays rooted in fear, panic, or anger, we risk not only harming ourselves, but also shutting any windows that may have been open to the winds of change. Feel the feelings, let them shake you to your core, and then channel them into positive action. And should you feel overwhelmed at the prospect of making so many changes in your life, just take it one step at a time, focusing first on what feels most doable. My guess is that those first small steps will feel so satisfying that you won't be able to stop yourself from taking another. And maybe one more after that. Who knows where it'll take you? I had no idea that watching heartbreaking, devastating scenes of albatross chicks dying with their bellies full of plastic on Facebook would lead to me devoting the next 5 years and counting of my life to doing whatever I could to stop this tragedy from happening, or that it would lead to my setting up and running a multi-award-winning environmental campaigning organization. It makes total sense to me to do good in the world. I learnt that when I dedicated my time, energy, and talent to creating and working on things that supported life on Earth, I felt better. When I went beyond myself and what I thought I wanted, towards what needed me most, I changed for the better. And that's my wish for you, that by doing some of the things in this book, the ones that make your heart sing, you'll feel a growing sense of well-being, creativity, and connection. How you use this book is entirely up to you. Start to finish, back to front, middle first, or open at random. It's really that kind of book. Of course, it's not a bad idea to start at the beginning and familiarize yourself with the whys and wherefores of saving the Earth, but it's really not essential. The only thing you need to do is try some of the stuff suggested in these chapters. I don't imagine many of you reading this will do everything, but if you do, you're my hero, please write to me. But lots of you will do some of the stuff and see which bits stick, which ones don't, and which ones you actually love. Naturally, the ones you love will be the keepers, and the things you become a great ambassador for. Finally, this book is not designed to make you feel guilty, ashamed, or not good enough. The very fact you're here and you're interested in saving the Earth is a wonderful thing. I was tempted to assume that, given you're reading this book, you're well aware of the environmental issues that threaten life on Earth. But in case you're not, or you think that we only have the problem of plastic pollution to solve, we better cover some ground. Some parched, over-fertilized ground at that. If you are fully up to speed on the current challenges we face and would rather not remind yourself of the breadth, imminence, and magnitude of them, then please feel free to skip the next chapter and get going with the actions. When it comes to saving the world, there is no greater ally than now. One last thing. This book isn't what you would call a heavyweight when it comes to the nuts and bolts of climate change, dwindling resources, plastic pollution, or any of the subjects listed next. I'm not an academic, as you may have already guessed. I tend to learn enough about something, or feel moved enough by something to go and do what I can to address it. But that's just me, and thankfully we're all different, and you may decide that you want to learn more about the topics we're going to cover in this book. Whilst experts and scientists have written many of the studies I refer to in this book, we don't all need to be experts to make change happen. If 100,000 readers around 25 decided never to buy plastic bottled water again, that would be around 1.14 billion plastic bottles saved, and around 86,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions stopped. That's the same amount of carbon dioxide generated from powering over 10,000 homes for a year, and that's from taking just one simple action. Despite being the problem, we're also the solution. Funny that. Our actions matter, and every small step we take towards solving the problems we face counts. So, let's get down to it and begin our overview of the major environmental issues we're facing. And I invite you to breathe deeply, while finding out that we're well and truly up shit creek. The good news is that we have enough paddles for everyone. The 7 things we need to save. 1. Oceans and seas. Planet Ocean. With almost 3/4 of the Earth's surface covered in salt water, it's pretty obvious to see that if the oceans are in trouble, the whole planet's in trouble. They don't just roll around doing nothing. Our oceans provide us with 70% of the oxygen we breathe. They regulate temperatures, and 3 billion of us rely on them as a primary food source. So pretty significant for the existence of human life. And scientists and natural history experts the world over agree that there's more than a commotion in the ocean. There's a crisis. Ice is melting at unprecedented rates at the North and South poles. Carbon dioxide is making our seawater acidic. Coral reefs are being bleached to death because water temperatures are rising. Entire ecosystems are being destroyed by overfishing. Oxygen-starved dead zones are appearing as a result of fertilizer and sewage running off the land into the seas. And on top of that, the oceans are being filled with plastic. The plastic problem. Since the first single-use plastic bag was patented in 1965, we've made over 8 billion tons of plastic. And while plastic has been a miracle for the healthcare industry, around half of it is used to produce single-use packaging. In the case of straws, coffee cups, lids and stirrers, we're using a material which lasts forever to make things we'll use for only a few seconds. Plastic doesn't biodegrade. It fragments into minute particles called microplastics, and around 12 million tons of it ends up in the ocean every year from littering, leaks and plastic pellet spills from the plastic manufacturing industry, the fishing industry, our sewers and our storm drains. That's the equivalent of a truckload of plastic entering the ocean every minute. According to the Monterey Bay Aquarium in California, around 1 million seabirds and 100,000 sea animals die from eating or being caught in plastic every year. And microplastics are now found in the most remote parts of the oceans, in the seafood we eat, sea salt, and in 90% of table salt brands. Overfishing. Sadly, there are not plenty more fish in the sea. Well, there would be if we didn't keep eating them all faster than stocks can replenish. And as ever, it's not just what we do, but how we're doing it that's the issue. Many fishing practices are unsustainable, not just in terms of depleting fish populations, but through the havoc wreaked on marine ecosystems through bycatch. When seabirds, sharks, whales and dolphins are caught incidentally in fishing gear and killed, and from bottom trawlers, which are responsible for the destruction of entire habitats on the ocean floor. Overfishing.org say that almost 80% of the world's fisheries are overexploited, depleted, or in a state of collapse. And worldwide, about 90% of the stocks of large predatory fish are already gone. It's serious stuff. The ecological balance of the oceans is under huge stress from overfishing, and we know that if the top predators or keystone species, the ones that play a critical role in maintaining the structure of a specific habitat, are taken out of the equation, the food chain collapses. Like the 95% of southern bluefin and Pacific bluefin tunas. Gone. And around 80% of all the top predatory fish in coastal areas of the North Pacific and North Atlantic. Gone. Buying dolphin-friendly tuna isn't enough. We need a combination of protected marine conservation zones, stronger international laws, and more sustainable fishing practices, along with reducing how much fish we eat to solve this one. Hot water. As if pollutants from industrial farming, melting ice, plastic pollution, and overfishing weren't enough problems on the big blue plate, we're about to serve up another dollop or two of trouble. Our oceans are acidifying as a result of increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere from our obsession with burning fossil fuels. You've probably heard that, in terms of human health, we need a healthy pH balance, not too acidic, not too alkaline. While the same could be said of the oceans, they're designed to absorb carbon dioxide, but too much of it makes them acidic. Ocean acidification has all kinds of negative consequences for marine ecosystems. It inhibits shell growth in marine animals like oysters, which do an amazing job of filtering pollutants out of the water, so we could do with hanging on to them. It's suspected as a cause of reproductive disorders in some fish, and along with raising sea temperatures, is linked to coral bleaching. We really, really need our coral reefs too. These things can seem like far away, not my problem issues, especially if you live inland. But just as your body needs all its parts working together to function healthily, so the body of Earth needs all its parts working together too. We depend on Earth for everything, and so if something's wrong with the oceans, it's everyone's problem. 2. Forests. Rainforests, jewels of the earth. If oceans are the left lung of the earth, rainforests are the right, generating around a fifth of the world's oxygen. They cover just 6% of the planet's surface, and yet they support around 2/3 of plant species and a quarter of insect species. Rainforests are like air conditioners for the planet, helping to cool our warming atmosphere not just by absorbing vast amounts of carbon dioxide, but also by soaking up sunlight and, through evaporation, creating clouds and rain. They're spectacular, despite our own spectacular efforts to raise them to the ground, still managing to provide ingredients for breakthrough medication and a home for 30 million species of animals and plants, as well as up to 84 uncontacted human tribes. Forests, a sponge for emissions. Forests all over the world, including temperate forests and rainforests, are a vital buffer against climate change. One recent study found that the world's forests absorb almost 40% of the 38 billion tons of carbon dioxide created by humans every year. Scientists have also discovered another fascinating way trees all over the world help to create clouds. They found that trees release gases into the atmosphere, which is essential in a process called cloud seeding, in which water vapor clings onto these molecules to form a cloud. And what do clouds do, other than look cool and rain on us? They bounce sunlight back into space, keeping us from overheating. Now you see it. Despite the vital role trees play in protecting biodiversity in soil, in feeding and supporting healthy oceans and replenishing groundwater and rivers, governments around the world still allow corporations access to pristine ancient forests to be logged. Except for Norway, which became the first country to ban deforestation in 2018. More like that, please. Rainforests are being cut down at the rate of around 30 million acres per year to provide hardwood for furniture and to clear land for agricultural use. Around 80% of the world's primary forests are gone, with almost 90% of West African and Madagascan rainforests destroyed. Let's just pause, take a breath and say that again. Almost 90% of West African and Madagascan rainforest has been destroyed. And there's more to losing this lush and essential part of the biosphere than meets the eye. Rainforests are now so degraded that they are releasing more carbon annually than all the traffic in the US. According to a recent report, tropical forest loss, through logging and clearing to turn into pasture, currently makes up around 8% of the world's annual carbon dioxide emissions. Put in terms of rankings, if deforestation were a country, it would be the world's third biggest emitter, marginally lower than the US and quite a lot higher than Europe. And when the land is turned into pasture for methane-belching cows, climate change gets a triple whammy. Protecting what remains of the rainforests and reforesting what we've lost is the simplest and cheapest way to stop climate change. But it seems our governments can't see the wood for the trees. Soon you won't. At current deforestation rates, in 10 years' time, all the Indonesian rainforest will be gone, largely because of the palm oil industry, and the same will be true for the rainforest in Papua New Guinea in around 13 to 16 years. This is bad news for the warming planet, and also for biodiversity. According to a 2014 study by scientists at the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF, and the Zoological Society of London, the number of wild animals on Earth has halved in the past 40 years. More on biodiversity loss coming up. 3. The atmosphere. All I need is the air that I breathe and to love you. When Earth first formed 4.5 billion years ago, it had no atmosphere. It was just a lump of molten rock spinning through space. Then, thanks to gases being spurted from volcanoes, followed by a long cooling-off period and the evolution of some very important organisms, oxygen levels soared and gave birth to the atmosphere as we know it. Our atmosphere today is a complex safety shield that keeps us alive, not only by allowing us to breathe, but also by protecting us from solar radiation and cosmic debris. It also keeps us warm by trapping just enough of the sun's heat waves bouncing off Earth's surface, for now at least. Our atmosphere's layers include the troposphere, where most of our weather happens, and the stratosphere, the place where most jet planes fly, containing the ozone that protects us from ultraviolet light. Our troposphere is supposed to be composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and just 0.04% carbon dioxide, plus some tiny amounts of other gases, although right now, thanks to the amount of greenhouse gases we humans are emitting, we're doing a stellar job of messing up this life-supporting ratio. A lot of hot air. The current biggest threat to our existence on this planet, that we know of, is climate change, since we're steaming towards a tipping point beyond which there's no return. The heating of our atmosphere comes from the greenhouse gases, mainly carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, we've been spewing into the skies since we discovered the fossil fuels that powered the Industrial Revolution. Since then, coal, oil, and gas have been fueling pretty much everything we do to stay warm, fed, lit, entertained, and mobile. But scientists the world over agree we've been threatening our very existence the whole time. If global warming passes 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, above pre-industrial levels, they predict a calamitous risk to the health of the planet and populations. And, deep breath, in 2016, global temperatures measured warming of 1.2 degrees Celsius, 2.16 degrees Fahrenheit. As it stands right now, experts agree that we're headed for a total rise of 3 degrees Celsius, 5.4 degrees Fahrenheit, by the end of the century. Which makes me wonder if 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, poses a calamitous risk. What does double that look like for life on Earth? Within the next 20 years, it's looking like the Arctic will be entirely ice-free in the summer months, making things another 0.5 degree hotter again, because white ice reflects heat and land and sea absorb it, and releasing mega amounts of methane into the atmosphere from the permafrost beneath it. Methane traps up to 100 times more heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide, so it's bad news not just for polar bears, the poster animal of the melting poles, but for us humans too. Back to carbon dioxide. Scientists who measure the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, from the top of a volcano in Hawaii if anyone is asking, in parts per million, or ppm, have warned that we cannot go over 350 ppm without dire consequences. Yet we've already reached 415.4 ppm, a level not seen for 12 million years, and are on track to reach 500 ppm within the next 50 years, at which point the warming will spiral exponentially. So we could be not only in air that's 3 degrees warmer, but in very hot water, with mass destruction to rainforests, extreme weather patterns, devastating food shortages, with resulting mass migration and stagnant seas giving off poisonous hydrogen sulfide gas. A plan for the planet. Scientists have been warning politicians about global warming for 3 decades. It's clearly laid out in thousands of peer-reviewed scientific papers. Continue to emit greenhouse gases, and the world will become toxic. And the signs are already here for them to see. erratic weather, drought, rising sea levels, wildfires, heat waves, air pollution and climate migration. Yet most politicians and the fossil fuel industry continue to champion finite, dirty energy instead of harnessing the wind, solar and tidal energy that could power the world's needs many times over without killing us all in the process. We can turn this around, but it has to happen fast, and we're all going to have to do our bit to make sure our governments and businesses are doing theirs. A bad air day. Just one other thing, while we're on the subject. Unfortunately, when we release gases and other particles into the atmosphere, they stay there and accumulate, or gather in water droplets and rain back down on us. Fuel emissions and particulates, pesticides, cleaning products, spray-on deodorants, volatile chemicals from paint and building materials don't just disappear after we use them. They enter our atmosphere and accumulate. Today, people living in areas of high air pollution are 20% more likely to die of lung cancer than others, even if they've never touched a cigarette in their lives. Ozone-depleting chemicals, once thought to be a bad hangover from the 1980s along with big hair and neon clothes, are making a comeback, depleting the ozone that protects us and plants from DNA-destroying ultraviolet rays. 4. Rivers and ice. Lifeblood of the land. If rainforests and oceans are the lungs of the earth, then rivers are its veins. Rivers pump fresh water containing vital minerals, nutrients, and seeds around the land. They provide habitat for wildlife, feed the oceans, and give us drinking water. But we don't have as much water on the planet as many of us, especially those with taps seem to think. In fact, if all the world's water fitted in a gallon jug, only a tablespoon of it would be fresh water. The rest is salt water. A tablespoon. And still most of us tend to take it for granted. Water scarcity. Back in 2015, the World Economic Forum listed water scarcity as the largest global risk in terms of impact over the next decade. From drought in the most productive farmlands to the hundreds of millions of people in the world without access to safe drinking water, water scarcity is affecting every continent and is predicted, unsurprisingly, to get worse as global temperatures rise. To put that in the context of climate change, if temperatures rise by 2 degrees Celsius, 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, beyond the agreed achievable cutoff point of 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, the numbers of people suffering from water shortages will be 50% higher than at the already challenging 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. According to the UN, global water demand is set to increase by 55% by 2050, mostly from increased demands from the manufacturing industry, more people wanting more stuff. Yet it's already projected that more than 40% of the world's population will be living in areas of severe water stress by 2050. This inevitably means that the wealthiest will carry on having lots of stuff, while the poorest will go thirsty. And as if we didn't already have enough reasons to switch to a green energy supplier, power plant cooling is responsible for a thirsty half of total freshwater usage in Europe and the US. Let's revisit that analogy, the one where if all the world's water fitted in a gallon jug, only a tablespoon of it would be fresh water, and further blow our minds. Over 2/3 of that tablespoon is actually frozen. Our ice caps and glaciers hold most of the world's fresh water, so when it comes to watering our crops, livestock, and providing drinking water for 8 billion people or so, we've got about a teaspoon. Food. A thirsty business. On a global scale, agriculture is the thirstiest business of them all, using 70% of the world's freshwater resources. In fact, around 50% of an average American's water footprint comes from growing food. Only around 10% is from personal use in the home. The rest is used for generating energy and manufacturing clothes and other goods. But what we eat makes a difference, as all foods were not made equal when it comes to how much water they use in production. A meat-eater's water footprint is around 5,000 litres per day, 10,500 pints, whereas vegetarians use between 1,000 and 2,000 litres a day, 2,000 to 4,000 pints.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?